Okay, I wanted to do a quick video on what I think are the top 5 best beginner species. I'm not getting fancy. I still have yet to learn how to do some editing, so this is just going to be a show and kind of tell, and I give you my reasons why. This species right here is the Grammostola pulchripes. This is the spider I recommend to everyone and anyone that is asking, I want to get a tarantula, what's the best first one to get? And I'm going to explain my reasons. Reason number 1 is the docility of this tarantula. For the most part, it is known to be a very, very docile species, a slow-moving, easy to handle, if that is your thing, type of tarantula. I have 3, and I have found that they're good eaters. They don't grow super fast, so you have a lot of time with them as slings and as juveniles. Their coloring is strikingly beautiful. These blacks and these golds, the chocolate goldeny, the common name. They are from, I want to say it's a province, a town in South America called Chaco. Not exactly, I'd have to look up the exact country so I don't screw that up, but they are absolutely outstanding tarantulas. This is one that I'm going to start trying to work in holding a little bit. I'm not an advocate of holding tarantulas because they don't really benefit anything out of it, but this is the one that I go to as number 1 every single time. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. I've wavered over the last year on different types, and those other types will be presented here. And again, my reasons why. Another reason why is that they are plentiful. 90% of the people that sell tarantulas have these as slings, juveniles and adults. They are not super expensive. As slings, they're rather inexpensive, the $20 range, maybe even cheaper. Of course, in the United States. I don't know what they are everywhere else. And they breed easily, and they have tons of babies. That is why they are so widespread. This here is a female. I have 2 smaller slings. I got her as a 1/2-inch sling, and over the course of the last year and a half, this is what I've got. She's roughly about 2 inches. Oh, actually, no. This one came in as a 1-inch spider. 1-inch, sorry. The other ones came in smaller. So over the course of the year, she's grown. Maybe she's a little bit more than 2 inches, maybe 2 1/4, somewhere in that range. So she's only grown about 1 1/4 inches over the course of the year and a half that I've had her, which is fine by me. She will get in the neighborhood of 7 to 9 inches. So you have a nice, calm, docile, big spider as a female. That is really, really pretty. The blacks, the browns, and those beautiful golden choco knees and the yellows on the joints of the legs are just a phenomenal looking tarantula. You really can't go wrong. They're bomb proof. You keep them dry, give them something to hide on. They'll dig, they'll web a little bit when they get close to mold. You can see her web there, that's from her molt. They will eat, and then they'll stop eating. And when they stop eating is generally, to me, a sign that they're getting close to a molt. That's the only time I've really had issues with these guys eating. Generally, when I throw something in there, they will eat. It's not anything that you need to feed a ton, and they are a tad bit more active as a Grammostola species. So I can't speak for other Grammostola species that I don't own, but the pulchripes or pulchripes and the pulchras seem to be the most active Grammostolas that I own. Now my 2 little slings, the Porteri and the Rosea, if they're bothered, they like to move. If not, they just sit in a spot as a rock. So let me go ahead and move on to what I would recommend as the number 2 species of the 5. So number 2 on my list of what I would recommend as far as beginner species is the Euapolastris campostratus, or Eupolastris, I think it is, not Euapolus, it's Eupolastris campostratus, the pink zebra beauty. Gorgeous spider. This one's a suspected male, haven't confirmed. Hopefully the next molt will indicate that for me for sure. They have beautiful banding on their legs. They get a nice dark coloring. You could see the somewhat two-tone carapace on mine. I'm not sure if all of them are that way. The striking legs, and then of course the pink setae. Very docile spider. This one can be a tad bit flighty at times, and then just completely calm right down and just hang out like he's doing right now. Let me zoom you in. So you can see the coloring. The banding is more white. It doesn't resemble a Choco Golden E because the coloring striations are different, but you can see the striation patterns on the patella of the spider. Just a gorgeous, again, docile species. Why are they not number 1? Availability is one of my major drawbacks with these. And they are very slow growing as slings, a tad bit slower than the Grammostola pulchripes, but in the same vicinity. If I had to pick some, new world terrestrial species that I'd want, pulchripes, and these would be, pretty high up on my list of ones that I would want. For the reason that, the striking coloring, the docility of them, how placid they generally are, and the growth rate. So they do take some time to grow into maturity. This again is about the same size as the pulchripe, so about 2¼ inches, possibly 2½. Suspected male. Hopefully I suspected wrong. This is one that I'll be looking to pick up another 1 or 2. Hopefully Ruth might be able to, maybe she has 1 or 2 of these that I could possibly get. So this is number 2 on my list, and number 3 is coming right up. Okay, number 3 is, again, it's got different names. I haven't settled on which one I believe is the one that everyone's using, because you've seen them as Homeoemma species fire, which was the consensus over the course of last year, but I think that was just, to me, a sales gimmick, because fire sounds a lot more than, or a lot cooler than Euapolus species red or the Brazilian red flame, I think, or flame rump, Brazilian flame rump maybe. Again, common names aren't the best. Dwarf species, roughly 3 inches, I think, as females, not much more. This is a female. She's been kicking lately. Not exactly sure why. Very inquisitive spider. She's not being right now. She has been very, very, I don't want to say laid back, but very lethargic lately. Not quite herself. She does move around. She hasn't eaten in a long time. That's one of the drawbacks of these. Very, very handleable species, not very fast moving at all. They like it more dry. They will dig. They will hide underneath logs, or they will be out in the open. They vary. Males roughly 2 to 2½ inches. Maybe even a tad bit, maybe closer to 2 inches than the 2½ inches. One of the reasons why, again, this is not higher up on the list, because I do think that this is the most handleable tarantula out there. These and the pink zebra beauties, the Eupolastris campostratus, I think are the 2 most handleable. The reason that I don't highly recommend these as 1 or 2 is they are very, very, very small slings, and they take a very, 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 very long time to grow. You can get them in as an 1/8 inch to 1/4 inch, and a year later they're not going to be much bigger. It usually takes roughly, from what I'm understanding, 2 to 3 years to get them 1 inch or over. So that is a very long time for a new keeper to have a little tiny spider. I failed with 4 slings. I got 2 that wouldn't eat, period, and died. 2 that ate once, molted once, and next thing I know, they were curled up dead. So they're not the easiest to take care of. I'm not saying that it can't be done, and I'm not saying that what I may have not, paid as much attention to them as I probably or possibly should have. So Euophthalus species red is what I still call them until I see something that actually defines what they really are. As a peer-reviewed paper and a genus change, they were going to remain as a Euophthalus species red to me. And you can see that she's dulled down. Her abdomen still looks pink, so it doesn't seem like she's impending a molt. Now, she did lay an egg sac. It was a surprise to me. So it was the first one that I ever dealt with. I got a couple of them, the eggs with legs, and then they dried up because I didn't do what I needed to do right. She did everything perfectly fine. And that is another reason that I don't highly recommend these, is that most of the adult sizes that you're going to find, if you want to skip that whole sling thing, they're going to be wild caught. There are just not a ton of them because they take so long. And you'll notice a lot of breeders of tarantulas deal more with faster growing spiders. So they breed stuff like Poecilotheria, Chelobrachys, the African species that grow quickly and mate easily. Those are the ones that you see more prominent in the hobby than Euophthalus species red, and the reason is because they take forever to grow, they take forever to lay sacs, they take forever to eat. She hasn't eaten in months. She continues to drink water when I put it in there, and then it evaporates, and then I put more in. I'm going to change her water dish to something different because I think this one leaks a little bit. But anyway, number 3, Euophthalus species red. And again, you heard why I don't recommend this as a higher up, as the first one that you should buy. Not saying that you shouldn't, not saying that you can't. These are just my recommendations based on, the ones that I've kept, and being in the hobby as long as I have, and being on the groups, and the information that you hear and see, and what everybody says. And I think the next 2, I'm not sure if they'll surprise you or not. Now, they probably won't, because I think they're still in everybody's top 10. But people have moved one of these out of a good beginner species because of, well, I'll get into it when I get to that one. But again, number 3, Euophthalus species red. Okay, number 4, this little one's a little mover, is the Grammostola rosea. Again, I really honestly believe that this spider's got kind of a bad rap lately as far as a beginner species. And I think that has a lot to do with the common name of a rosehair. Because you have these and you have the Grammostola porteris that have been traded and sold under the common name of rosehair over the course of the years. And I do believe that the porteris have a little bit more of an attitude that is a little bit more unpredictable. And I've seen a lot of videos, or watched a lot of videos, of Grammostola porteris over the course of the last couple of weeks. A lot of them of the behavior of what they call bipolarism. And I don't mean any disrespect for anybody that suffers from that disorder. But, find 1 minute, not find the next minute kind of a deal. The actual Grammostola rosea, what they call red color form, which again I think I've explained, it's not really a red color form. Porteris and rosea, I believe, are 2 different species from 2 different parts of Chile. The rosea is a more reddish hued tarantula, where the porteri is a more grayish brown type of tarantula. Anybody that has both a rosea and a porteri can either back me up or totally disprove me by saying, no, my rosea is crazy, my porteri's quite docile. And you're going to have different attitudes with different specimens. So I could have 5 of these rosea and have 4 of them very placid, and one of them that wants to eat my face every time I open the enclosure. So, again, number 4 only because they are very slow growing. They are very available, another good reason, but another bad reason is the unpredictability of behavior. I'm still trying to work that out between my Porteri and my Rosea. What I could tell you is that both my slings are roughly the same exact size. This one is much more active. My Porteri is much more inactive, and it is one that if I disturb it in the wrong way, it will move from one side of the enclosure in a heartbeat, almost like to defend its area. This one is more inquisitive. I've held this one 3 different times, only because it likes to try and crawl out, so I just kind of put it on my hand and then guide it right back in there again. She is due for an enclosure change, not really necessarily an upgrade, something with some deeper substrate that she can dig in. I didn't really give her all that much here. One reason is because since I got her, she's been very active, and she has been out of this enclosure at least a dozen times from the time I got her in. So number 4 on my list is the Grammostola rosea, which would be the RCF, the common rose hair, not the Porteri. So the last one, I think and this one is one that is going to be, I think, a little bit of a surprise to people, only because you don't see it very often. And the one that, I don't want to say you don't see it very often. I mean, I have 2 of them. But based on what I've witnessed over the course of me having them and the attitude change that I've gone through with them, number 5, I don't think it's really going to be too much of a surprise, but number 5 is coming right up. Okay, so number 5 is the Fawn of Tom Hensai. It was kind of a toss-up between the Fawn of Tom Hensai and the Fawn of Tom Chalcodes. I think that you probably can interchange either one, but this girl here and my male have been pretty straight, even keeled. There's no unpredictability at all with her. She is a very aggressive eater. She is a enclosure destroyer, but for the most part, other than the day that I found her, has been on her very best behavior. Very, very placid, not super fast moving. You can see she's just sitting there, minding her own business. Colorings, even though, again, she's an American species, so she's brown. We don't have very colorful species here in the United States, mostly browns and blacks. But she is the spider that got me actually back into the hobby, this particular one right here. And I have the male. Hopefully when I go over there and check him tonight, that he's actually molted. I doubt it, but I'm hoping, so that we can get these 2 paired up. They are easy to find, easy to breed, and again, a lot of them are wild caught. This one here wasn't really a wild caught, it was a wild rescue. It happened to show up at my work in some pallets that came back from Mexico. So I'm assuming that these can cross the border into Mexico. You know, that's not like there's a fence there saying no tarantulas from the United States allowed over Mexican borders, but it's also possible that she crawled into the return skid truck in Texas or Oklahoma to travel back. So you can see the posture and behavior that she's exhibiting right now, how she kind of pushed her carapace down. She probably senses me talking and the vibrations, so she's kind of trying to huddle herself in case she needs to defend herself or, you know, hide her carapace. I have not held her, never had a reason to. I just wanted her to be her own spider in her own home and live that way without my interference. You know, when I got her, she was 3 inches. Now she's a little right around the 4.25 inch mark. Fully mature, ready to breed, and we have a male to do it. Some of the drawbacks really are most of the adults that you're going to find are wild caught. Again, you know, we have a lot of people that are going out in, you know, California, Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, Oklahoma, Missouri, places like that that have the Hensai, the Anax, the Iodis, the, you know, Utulenum, chalcodes and going out at night and taking them out of the wild and bringing them home, breeding them and selling them. Which, again, I mean, it all had to start that way at one point, but I think with the breeding, and that's why more people need to breed Fawn of Tom species, to leave the ones in the wild alone. Just let them be. You know, if you find them, especially this time of year, the people where these are at, wherever you live, the males are going to be all over the place. You know, if they happen to be on your porch, let them go. They're out there trying to find a female, and if you bring them in, put them into a container, you're going to stop a cycle of breeding. You know, with whether it's with one female, two females, or maybe not even any females. But so number 5 for me is the Fawn of Tom Annex, with chalcodes as a close second, and some honorable mentions to the list. If I had to recommend, you know, 6 or 7, 8, and 9, 10, you have Brachypelma albopilosum, either hobby form or the Nicaraguan form. I haven't figured out which one is less crazy than the other ones. All mine are pretty laid back and docile. Actually, my Nicaraguan's a little bit more feisty than the other 3. The sling has just buried itself, so it just kind of hides in. Then you have Brachypelma emilia. I think is probably, again, based on what I've watched and what I've heard, mine are still small. One of the more placid brackies, less likely to flick hairs than some of the others. I want to add one that doesn't make a lot of people's list, and that's the Davus penaloris. It's a very pretty spider. Can be a little quick. Doesn't get very big, 4 inches as female, probably right around the 3-inch mark, possibly for a mature male. Relatively inexpensive, easy to find. Then you have the Chromatopelma cyaneopubescens, the GBB. Again, it's a little quick of a spider. Not very defensive in any means. I've not had any defense postures out of the 3 that I have at all. Very, very good eaters. I just don't think we as keepers keep them in the right kind of conditions. I'm still doing a little bit of research exactly what their habitat looks like. I'm trying to get more of a close-up picture of one of their burrows in the wild. I have contacted a few people that may have access to something like that, so I can try and mimic that with one of the 2 that I'll have left, and see what they do. And then you have the Carabina versicolor, and pretty much any of the Avicularia species, but we'll go with the Avicularia, the Guyane pinto, the regular common pinto. Pretty laid back, fun to hold. The way they walk is outstanding. So if you're going to try for an arboreal as your first, I highly suggest an Avicularia, or possibly an Avicularia metallica ND. So those are what I recommend as beginner species, and the reason I did this video is because it's come up quite a bit lately on the groups, and I think it's great listening to people say, you know, I'm new to the group, I'm interested in tarantulas, I don't have one yet, what do you recommend? And what I see a lot of is someone will say, oh, Grammostola pulchripes, or Grammostola rosea, or Grammostola porteri, and not really explain the reasoning why they recommend them. And not only why you recommend them, but some of the drawbacks that also are tagged with that spider. So if there's some oddities, you know, like price. Grammostola pulchra is one that comes up an awful lot, and you know, I would never, after my first one, Norman, he was absolutely a nut job. I mean, every time I opened the enclosure, he would do laps. That's why he got his name, because he was psychotic. He was crazy. Not that I wouldn't recommend them now, but the reasons that I don't are price and availability is one, and I have yet to witness either one of the 2 being placid and normal. They're still quite standoffish as far as when you open the enclosure. They come to where the enclosure opens at the beginning, trying to, I don't want to say defend, because they're not throwing a threat posture or being defensive whatsoever, but almost like, you know, what are you doing in my home kind of a deal. So they come to the door and want to know what's going on. And Norman, a lot of times, will come to the door and then take right back off and hide. The little one is constantly moving around when I open the enclosure. So, you know, there are a lot of reasons why I don't recommend certain ones that other keepers do, and there are certain reasons that I recommend a lot of the ones that other keepers do. I'm not saying that I'm right. These are based on my experiences and just information I've collected from the groups on Facebook. You know, let me know if you have, you know, a different top 5. Again, everybody's different. You know, if you feel that, I never recommend an old world tarantula to any new keeper ever. People like to be smart asses on the clubs and say, ooh, I think an OBT is pretty docile, which I think is just childish and stupid, but, you know, they're trying to be funny. And I just don't see the necessity to jump right into something that you may think that you have a handle on exotic pets because you have a snake or you have a lizard or, you know, something else, but you really don't understand how 0 to 100 miles per hour well this spider works until it is out of the enclosure running across your floor. And with the New World species, you have a little bit less likelihood of that happening. You know, more with the Davus peniloris and the Chromatopelma cyaneo-pubescens than any of the other ones that I recommended. I'm not saying that it can't happen, because this spider right here can just get a bug up its ass and decide I'm taking off and be out of this enclosure faster than I can stop it. They have 8 legs, and their instincts is just to move when they feel like they need to. Most of these, once they set up their home base, when they're in their home base, they are absolutely comfortable. If you mess with them in there, they don't like it. Okay? If they crawl out, they're in unfamiliar territory. They're a little bit more placid that way. That's why I always recommend, if you're holding your spider, don't push it. Don't stick your hand in their enclosure and scoop them up. Let them come to you. If you really want to hold them, give them the tap with the brush, see what they want to do. Tap them to the side, let them crawl out, get on your hand from there. But I just don't like seeing people going to the enclosure of a spider and just picking it up. I just don't think that's the right way to do it. So I hope everybody found this interesting. I hope that you know, it may answer some of the new keepers' questions, and maybe even bring a debate up on, you know, well, I've got a Grahamstola pulchripes and it's an absolute nut job, and I'm not saying that that can't happen, because it can. But for the most part, again, I have 3 of them, and what I witnessed over the last year and a half, I started out recommending the Brachypelma albopilosum, but the pulchripes has just really, really taken over for me, because I think the albopilosum grows a little quicker. The pulchripes grows a little bit slower. They're both good eaters. But the albopilosums are a little bit more likely to flick hair. I've not had a Grahamstola flick or Grahamstola pulchripes flick a piece of hair yet. They just don't do it. Same thing with, you know, the Fawn of Tom. Now again, if I'm messing with them, sure, they're going to flick, because that's their defense. I don't mess with them. That's why you see 99% of my spiders with, you know, all the hair on their abdomen. She has scratched off. She has a little bit of patch right there. Not quite sure what that's from, but that's not even really in a spot. Maybe it is. She would be actually flicking farther back on her abdomen. But I have her, and I have a male. I had a sling that I sent off a long time ago, and hopefully this time next year I'll have a bunch of little babies that I'll be able to send out into the hobby, and other people can enjoy this species as a captive bred instead of a lot of these Faunopelma that are wild caught. So let me know what you think. If you liked the video, please comment. If you didn't like the video, please comment. Like it, share it, let me know, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Talk to you guys soon.